And I'm an ambassador lead in UPSA.
And I'm June. I'm also a community relations coordinator at UPSA. We are so excited to hear from all of our amazing panelists tonight and to also share some pathway resources that we hope will be helpful to you all.
Okay, so before we begin, we're going to start off with the land acknowledgement. Okay, so we recognize that many Indigenous nations have longstanding relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located and that precede its establishment. We acknowledge our presence in the area known as Tekaronto, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Métis. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peacefully share and care for the Great Lakes region. The lands on which we currently reside were conquered through violent policies aimed at easing and assimilating Indigenous peoples. In addition to land acknowledgements, it's important to take active steps to help in the process of truth, reconciliation, land back, and restoring Indigenous peoples' autonomy. If you're able to, donating money or spending time reading education resources as well as attending demonstrations are achievable actions that we can take to support the process. Since this is an online event, please also recognize the land you are on and take time to understand the significance of doing land acknowledgements.
Okay, and here's the plan for the night. So we'll start with opening remarks and then move to part one, where we will be having our panel discussion and Q&A. And after that, we'll move into part two, which is pathway exploration, where we'll go over specific opportunities, resources, and programs available to psych students. And then lastly, we'll move on to our closing. Just a few housekeeping reminders before we get started. Having your cameras on is optional, so feel free to do what's comfortable for you. But we do ask to please remain muted during the panel to be respectful to the panelists. Also, feel free to drop any questions in the chat at any time during this event. And also, we will be recording the event and have notes shared afterwards if you would like to refer back.
Okay, so what is UPSA? So we are a student-run organization for psychology students, and we offer academic, personal, and professional support to psych students, like peer tutoring, peer mentoring, community relations, and marketing. And we are affiliated with SELD, YFS, the undergraduate psychology department, and Calumet and Stom colleges.
In terms of UPSA services, we offer peer mentoring, peer tutoring, community relations events just like this one, and marketing as well. So if you want to get involved in UPSA, we'll be sharing more at the end.
Okay, so we're going to begin part one, the panel discussion. So we're joined by four amazing panelists from diverse paths in health, business, law, and education. And how this portion is going to work is that we're going to introduce each panelist, give them a moment to introduce themselves, and then Ava and I will ask a series of questions in a Q&A format, and then we'll spend around like 15 minutes with each panelist before moving on to the next. So let's get started.
Okay, so our first panelist is Vivo, a master's science student in epidemiology, and she is researching mental health outcomes in urban environments. So V, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Ava. So, hi everyone. My name is V, like Ava introduced. And I'm currently a master's student at Western University, at School of Medicine and Dentistry. I'm currently doing research and some coursework in epidemiology, and I had a Bachelor of Science in Psych, and from York. I was at UPSA last year. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you back, Fee. So we'll start with the first question. Can you describe your current path as a master's student and what motivated you to pursue this field?
So basically, I think it's a bit confusing if you see like epidemiology and like biostat. But basically, what I'm currently doing is I'm basically doing like research in mental health topic using large public data set, and I do research using epidemiologic So when you think of epidemiology, you'd try not to think of like a theory based, but more like a research approach to certain, I guess, different topic. What motivated me to pursue this field is I was involved in a few side research lab during my last year, and it's really helped me gain confidence in my research skill and made me realize I want to use those skills in research to contribute to real life problem. And as like I guess all psych students are aware, one of the most popular paths after obtaining a psych degree is to go into a graduate program or specifically something more like clinical psych or counseling psych. But I don't want to contain myself into one certain option. So I start exploring other things that align more with my goal, but also align with my current skill. And I found out about epidemiology, and I found out about my current supervisor, who is very involved in a lot of mental health research, but she is not. She doesn't have any psych degree or any training in like clinical psych or in counseling, but she is a cross-appointed prof in the Department of Psychiatry um, at Western, and that really inspired me. So I reached out, I applied, and I got it. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Our next question is, how did your background in psychology at York University influence your interest in public health and mental health research?
Yeah, so I kind of give my answer in the previous question already, but basically the degree gave me a really strong base in a lot of theories in mental health, study design, and research skill. But again, like I want a path that is more broader and more actionable compared to, I guess, in research in psych, because it's not, because usually in psych research you guys we do very like small sample size like 100 200, and usually the result doesn't really directly apply to the larger public, and also passionate about I guess public health policy. So combine all of those and epidemiology offer me the bridge that it lets me learn more about mental health outcome at a larger scale, and then can the finding that I'm doing right now can inform like services, can inform like prevention policy and urban planning policy, anything that we can contribute to mental health outcome.
That's good to hear. Next question we have for you is what academic or professional steps are required to enter your field? And what do you wish you had known before applying to graduate programs in the field that you're currently in?
I guess unfortunately I have to start off with in epidemiology and biostat. Specifically, they do require a very strong stat background, but not to a point where like you need to be like a stat expert. But I would say like a solid ground where you can build up upon. And I would say one thing they're looking for the most is to demonstrate your willingness to go into the field, because epidemiology is usually not a program that offer an undergrad. I think only Western really have a degree in epidemiology. So, and again, it's more like a research method or approach compared to others program or the discipline. And because it's so broad, it can range from you basically can study about anything, from like chronic disease, social behavior, epigenetic, or mental health. So when you apply to the program, no one really expect you to have the knowledge about epi beforehand. And I would say that what I wish I have known before applying is that be ready to study more, because I do have to take a bunch of course, which is like exactly like my undergrad, because I do need like the core knowledge before I move on to heavier and more advanced topic. And I would say that I wish could have known that. I guess I'm not sure how to prepare for it, but I guess it prepared me mentally better when I started to work program. Yeah.
Okay, that is really good to know for people interested in epidemiology, so thank you. Our next question is, what opportunities during undergrad, for example, research or volunteering, leadership, or coursework, helped you prepare for your current program?
I would say that all four help me and help everybody, I think. But I would say that just because the nature of the program is very like research heavy, I would say that research experience matter the most. And having a thesis would put you in an advantage when applying to the program, and also because you're required to do a master thesis while in the program also. And I would say the reason why I say all four opportunity matters is because by volunteering, by having like leadership experience and like all of the knowledge I learned in all my courses really, I would say that shape my experience as a researcher, especially again, like epidemiology is a very like broad skill. You can study like anything. So we have like a bunch of people from different background. Like we have a nurse who's doing like study on, I guess, health service and health, public health contribute to a certain outcome. I'm not sure. And then we also have like people in the medical science program, people in the biology program, chemistry program. It's like all over the place. So all of those four opportunity, regardless of what it is, contribute to what topic you're gonna study about in your epidemiology degree.
Thank you for that. Next question is, what advice would you give to psychology students who don't want to pursue clinical work but still want to make an impact in health or research?
I would say that my advice would be there were way more programs that fit your goals more than you think. Again, like public health, epidemiology, biostat, health service, implement science, like applied science, and even user experience program, user experience design research. A lot of research live outside degree that say psychology on the label. For example, I do know someone who is doing a PhD in geography, but their project is literally on human behavior. So basically, it's the same skill that you really use in your that you have in your psych bachelor degree, but she's doing it in a different form, if that makes sense. So I guess don't hung up on like the title of the program, like you know, like don't chase that graduate program in psychology if you really love research and really like want to pursue a career in like research. And looks for labs and prof that's studying the stuff that you care about and try to broaden your search by like again I guess encourage you guys to look into public health epidemiology, try to search different program and like under different names that you can broaden your options later on.
That's good to hear. Kind of just following up on that. Are there like any particular like research labs or volunteer opportunities or any like organizations that you would recommend for students to kind of that are hoping to work in population health or mental health research?
I would say that for population health, I'm not sure. Just again, just going back because like um not a lot of university has like an undergrad epi program, so it's really hard to really find a research lab that really like completely align with epi. So I would say that any lab would help. You just need to demonstrate that you know how to handle like data. But the thing is, regardless of what data you're gonna handle, if it's not like a data that is like 20K entry, then it's not really like public health, if that makes sense. I would say other research experience. I would say I did like kids health phone. I did like a few research lab. I did what's the like lab called? The social cognition lab. I also did the Crave lab. So I guess all of those contribute to the degree in some kind of way, not completely, but some kind of way. And I guess I also volunteer at one of like the sorry, the housing for dementia patient, and it just really helped me to like have that approach in like how people care, how the healthcare system works, if that makes sense. And like when you like applying to the program, they will ask you about your like current knowledge. They don't like again don't expect you to become like expert, but they do want your insight about it.
Okay, that was all very clear. And it sounds like you got some great re or just volunteer experience and research experience that all contributed to your to helping your grad program. So that's amazing. Our next question is, what has been the most rewarding or challenging part of transitioning from psychology into epidemiology?
Sorry, give me 1 second. I guess one of the most rewarding part, I would say that is the excitement of studying something new. I know it's like kind of weird because like it's like you need to put a lot of work into studying a new subject, but it's the way that it's like because I really enjoy the aspect of how applicable and actionable public health can be on the to be on like paper and to apply it to real life. That's a whole different field, but really enjoy that part right now, like learning new knowledge. So it's really rewarding to have that. And also one of the most challenging part is, I guess, I'll be straightforward. It's the stat, guys. It's the statistic. Like biostat is it's okay. It's similar to what we're doing like in your inside stat, but it's not completely. So it's not like an easy ride. So it's a bit challenging right now. But also it's getting better. Like it's getting better day by day, the more work you put into it. So that's one of the part about being challenging, but also rewarding at the same time. I can see myself improve in biostat. So there's that. And what else? I guess challenging. Rewarding. I also get to meet a lot of people in like different field where there is a topic or like so different from mine, and I learned so much about their background, so much about their personal experience and how did they get to this point, because it's a very interesting program, I would say. But there's that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I think that's definitely important to hear the challenges and the rewards and how those challenges can become the rewards in some way. So thank you for sharing that. Our final question is, how did you navigate uncertainty or self-doubt while figuring out your next step after undergrad?
um I would say that self-doubt is normal, like to be honest, like even though I'm in the program already, but self-doubt still occur every now and then just because I guess imposter syndrome, and like it's a very new topic, new subject. You're like stepping out of your comfort zone. You never really like study about this stuff before. So obviously your confidence gonna be shaken up a bit just because you're not completely sure if you getting it right. I guess one thing that helped with self-doubt is to stay grounded, to focus on like what is currently happening and remind yourself that you work really hard to be in the program, you work really hard to get here. There must be something about you that like that how to say that your supervisor choose you to be here because you need to be picked to be able to get into the program and to know that you survived 4 years of undergrad, you can do it again. That's how I keep reminding myself.
Thank you for that, V. That was super cool to hear. I'm just gonna ask, we do have some time right now, like a couple of minutes. Does anyone have any questions for V? You could drop them in the chat or you could feel free to turn on your mic as well.
I have a question from Alaya. I did not take a gap year. I go straight. I do take like an extra year during my undergrad to do my thesis, but then I go straight into my graduate program. Thank you. Um, So it's like I think let me remember what the program called. I think the program is called Music Share with Senior. You can Google it. It's like somewhere in the GTA. It's basically I go to resident home with dementia patient, and every patient that sign up for the program has like a personal curated playlist, and I go there every week or every like 2 week to I guess hang out with them and just play the playlist with them to I guess help with their loneliness, and also because music do contribute to their memory quite a bit, and it's just a way to like accompany them while they are in resident care. And how did I apply for or find volunteer experience? Um, okay, not an ad for like UPSA or anything, but to be honest, through UPSA, I do learn a lot from like my be mentor. One of them is here today. Say hi to Kay. So Kay really helped me a lot through, I guess, find more opportunity on campus and off campus. And like how I say that the more you find out about one thing, then like one thing leads to another. Like if you talk to people, just ask like, hey, do you know any research experience right now? Or do you know any like volunteer experiences opening up right now? They'll be more than happy to help you out and just to like point out some of the tip and trick to really get into the organization if they're already in there. I don't know if that helped. I'm so sorry. I try my best to like just ask around. That's what I'm trying to say.
That was great. Thank you so much, Fee. Well, definitely, if anyone has any questions, we could maybe just bring them up at the end. We're going to move on to our next panelist. So, next, we have Simi Sahota, who is a psychology graduate who now works as a customer behavior and retention strategist. Simi, would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, awesome. Well, hello guys. Good evening. I'm exhausted right now, but what's up? Okay, so before I even say anything, I actually do just want to know, is anybody in this room interested in marketing or business? You can drop it in the chat, like a yes, just so I know. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. So yeah, anyways, I'm a customer behavior or retention strategist. To be honest, my title keeps changing over and over again. You'll see it on my LinkedIn. But just to say I'm in marketing, business, that stuff. And I got into it a couple years ago. Crazy thing is, when I was actually in university, I used to work at a drum store and I used to do the social media marketing for that drum store. And I was doing that at the side while I was doing my other leadership roles at York. So I got into marketing though because I just always had an interest with psychology and business. I did my minor in business, like I think year three, and I never really put the two and two together to think marketing, but I stumbled across it along the way when I was moving from job to job, actually. So I guess you could say I'm not the school route person. I'm a more hands-on person. I like to work. I like to apply whatever I'm learning too. So yeah, so along the way, I actually was an admin at York in the psychology department. Then I worked in a corporate job, not doing psychology actually. I was doing something in supply chain management. Hated it. Then I quit my job, and then I had no idea what I was doing. And I kept telling my parents, "I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I know what I'm gonna do. I'll figure it out." And then I just kind of went back to my passion, my interest, which is psychology. And I actually started off just making content on LinkedIn about entrepreneurship psychology. Because again, I love business, I love psychology. And then from there, because I was making content on randomness, I was literally going through articles and books and stuff on it. And then a consumer psychologist actually commented on one of my posts. And then I was like, whoa, consumer psychology? Totally forgot that was something. Got into that, read every book possible. And then I just decided to start my own thing and try to get clients. And then I got one client, then it led to the next. And I've been working with a few different brands along the way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. That covered a lot, and that was definitely very helpful for a lot of people in the Zoom. Our first question for you is what led you, or sorry, was there a defining moment, maybe a project, internship, or a personal realization that helped you realize this was the path for you?
I think when I was working at the drum store, so the craziest thing was I like at that time, again, I was working at York studying, and then I just wanted to pursue something. Thanks. And I was actually just taking lessons at the drum store. I went there just for like two lessons, and the guy over there, it was a small business, right? He just asked me, he's like, you seem pretty young and into this like social media, maybe. He just guessed. And then he offered me the position to do his social media, and I just said yes. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. I'm like, sure. I didn't know how to work a camera. I didn't know anything about editing at that time or marketing at all. But I guess the thing is, like I guess throughout my life, I never say no to an opportunity. So that's what led me to marketing. It was like my first taste of what marketing was. And then again, when I didn't know what to do with my life and I didn't want to go back to school, I'm so anti-school. It's so bad that I'm at this university conference and I'm saying I hate school. But even Maz and Janine know this. It's so funny. But yeah, so anyways, I just didn't want to go back to school. I like whatever it was. And then I decided, okay, I'll just learn everything on my own. I'll read everything that I can and I'll just apply it. And so, yeah, I think when it was me making content and then getting back into psychology, you just kind of find your way. Like, as long as you go back to what you're passionate about or what you're interested in, at least, you'll always find some opportunity along the way. You just got to put yourself out there. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Sounds super, super cool. The next question I kind of have, just following along, is like, what academic or professional steps would you recommend for psychology students who want to enter marketing or like behavioral strategy or business analytics?
Okay, so that it depends what you want to do with it, right? So I like to work with small, medium-sized businesses. I'm not really a corporate person. And I have my own interests when it comes to that. And you kind of have to pick and choose what you want to do. If you want to be in the corporate world and you want a steady full-time job in, let's say, behavioral analytics, then you do have to go to school for that because that's what corporate needs, right? They do look at what where you studied. But for me, no one has ever asked me where I studied. It's always just, what can you do for me, Simi? That's it. It doesn't matter what degree you have. It doesn't matter what things you've learned. No one will ever ask you that because in the world of business, the only thing that matters is what can you do for me and how can you improve my sales or how can you lower my costs, right? So that's the small, medium-sized business world. Even large businesses actually operate that way. So many people have not been to school, right? A lot of people have not even had finished even high school, and they're all in business. And it's amazing who you find and who you network with. So if you wanted to do my route when it comes to actual marketing, like let's say customer retention marketing, you literally can learn everything on your own. I've never taken a course. I don't have any plans to go back to school. And the beauty too is with AI, you can do absolutely anything. So ChatGPT, I learned everything off of ChatGPT. I learned everything off of books. I actually even wouldn't recommend a course. And that's because people are snakes and you won't learn anything actually from courses that people make. Um, this is so unconventional. I'm so sorry for saying all this, but don't buy any courses. Just read a book. Go buy a $20 book, $30 book. You can even download them for free and read it. And I can guarantee you'll know more about marketing than the person who's selling you the course. So yeah, I'm being honest.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I feel like that is needed sometimes when we hear so much about courses, just to hear about the alternative routes.
Yeah.
And so our next question is if you're aware of any particular certifications, programs, or platforms that students could explore to strengthen their skills in business psychology or digital marketing.
Uh, okay, I would say go for networking events. I would say you can read any book, like anything on consumer psychology, just anything on marketing. Watch any YouTube video out there. You can learn a lot. I listen to so many podcasts, just to, yeah. And then I think also I would recommend subscribing to tools. Like if you want to get hands-on in marketing, learn some tools that apply to marketing because in the end it's your skill, right? You want to build a skill. And you if you're kind of like me, you work at your own pace, that's the way to go. Course wise, again, it depends on what route you want to go to. If you want to do the small business route, being self-employed, then you can literally learn on your own. If you wanted to go into corporate, then there are probably courses out there. There's probably certificates out there. I'm not super anti-school, don't worry. There's probably some stuff out there for you to learn traditionally. However, you still have to keep up with AI and you still have to keep up with the tools out there. So even if you do go to school, you still have to learn everything on your own. So you can learn all the traditional, the basics of what you need to know about marketing, like metrics, like whatever you need to calculate, that kind of traditional stuff. But at the same time, when it comes to marketing, everything is just so fast. So things have changed. Things change every second, right? Especially with all what's out there, the technology out there, and people change. So no matter what you learn, this is the craziest thing. No matter what you learn, whatever you learn traditionally, you still have to keep up with people and the trends, and you still have to keep up with, in the end, human behavior. So your psychology background, all of you guys here, you'll always have that, and especially if you have the interest, you're always going to keep learning that. So yeah, you can literally do anything. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for that. That sounds really inspirational. Um, I think I would just ask you, like, is there anything that you would wish that you had known before starting your career, or anything you would go back and change?
Uh, I wouldn't change anything. Um, maybe actually, I don't know. You know what? I don't really think I would change much. Maybe just maybe learning, nah, I can't say anything. I was gonna say learn something faster, but like you're at the pace that you should be at the end of the day, right? And you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. Um, And the key is really confidence in yourself. And you have to figure out what's holding you back, right? So you can waste so much time just thinking, I got to make money. I got to make money. How am I going to make money? Right. But then you never put your foot out there. You never really get started. And you never take the time to learn. Right. So I don't think I would change anything because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, as boring as that sounds. Sorry.
No, I think that's a beautiful way to put it and to not like regret any past things because
Yeah.
it's led you to where you are. Our next question is if you have found anything to be the most rewarding part of combining psychology with entrepreneurship and marketing.
The most, sorry, what was it? The most,
The
um,
most rewarding part of combining them.
uh, hmm, I would say one, one thing is when you actually, all your effort gets results, like everything that you've put your whole heart, life, brain into, and you actually see money go up, or you actually see engagement go up. You actually see positive feedback coming from customers, even from clients. I mean, like with marketing, like, well, in my case, because I'm self-employed, you're marketing to customers, but you're also marketing to your own clients, right? So it's sales, marketing, all of that combined. And then I think the most rewarding part of it all, besides just the results and building communities for your customers, is the confidence that you get. Like when you just try, and you don't give up on it, and you'll feel so much more confident in yourself. And when speaking to other people, you definitely become a magnet. And yeah, and you just want to keep learning, and you just fall in love with what you're doing, and you just never want to stop. So yeah, I don't know if I answered that question. I keep forgetting what questions you ask me. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. You've actually been
Okay.
touching on like all the questions that we had for you. Um,
Okay.
okay, so we don't have any more questions for you. So does anyone in the chat have any questions they would like to ask Simi? So someone has asked, what are your current long-term goals and how do you navigate past clients who try to undercut you?
That's so funny. Okay, so current long-term goals. So it depends on what you personally want in life. Like right now, at this point, I want more stability. So because of my work, I have actually been able to open up opportunities for myself for permanent full-time jobs. So that's something that I've always been working towards too, just so you have that, and then you can always do your side hustle. right? Because when I started, it became my full time, but then now it's becoming where I can actually do some the work at the side because I'm so used to it now, and I built a rhythm and a business that I seek more permanent stuff, more stability. But my long term, I guess long term goal, um, to have more clients maybe, or maybe build my own e-commerce store, or I don't know. It's just I just want to keep learning and seeing what I can do. There's no real long-term goal that I have. So yeah, as long as maybe I can get higher profile clients, but I still love helping small business guys, and small medium size. So yeah, that's one thing. And then how do I navigate past clients? Uh, okay. So that is a big one. People will try to undercut you, or there's gonna be, like you're gonna try and get clients. Well, they're not even your client yet, but just how do you sell to them, right? How do you make them want your services? And then sometimes I actually did go through a problem where I had this one client and then he hired someone else, and him and I were literally conflicting, right? He was stepping on my toes, and it just became like this really toxic kind of environment relationship, and that's gonna happen. But in the end, I would say you have to be so specialized. Like, so right now in this environment, everybody's a social media marketer, right? I'm a customer retention strategist. I'm a customer behavior strategist. And my title is this for a reason. It's not just because I'm telling you guys this is what I am and this is what I do, which it is what I do, but it gives you value, right? So when someone's just not just, but when someone's an ad person or when someone's a social media person, that title has become so broad and has become so saturated. So again, with psychology, especially because all of you have psychology under your belt, you already became a specialist at something, you know? And not a lot of people have this skill set. And the craziest thing is when I say psychology to any potential client, any person in business, their eyes light up. It's crazy. And they want to learn more from you because psychology became this big buzzword. So that's how I kind of navigate my way through it. You just got to be special at something. Am I over the time? Sorry, there was another question, but I
Yeah,
can always answer in the chat.
thank you so much, Simi. Yeah,
All
we
right,
are gonna have to move to the next panelist, but thank you so much for
no problem.
everything you shared. That was
I'll
very
answer in the
informative.
chat if you guys have any questions,
Oh,
or you can, yeah.
that would be great. Yes, we're
All
also
right,
going to be taking remaining questions at the end of the panel, but if you feel free to answer in the chat as well. Um, but
okay.
yeah, thank you so much. We'll be moving on. So our next panelist is Bianca Del Casale, a psychology graduate now studying law at the University of New Brunswick. Her interests include trauma-informed justice and advocacy. And Bianca, feel free to introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name's Bianca. I recently graduated from the psychology program in June. I'm currently, as Ava said, a first year law student at UMB. I have my exams coming up in a few weeks. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here to reconnect with York.
We're excited to have you, Bianca. So, the first question that we have for you is, can you tell a bit of us about your current journey in law school and what drew you from psychology into the field of law?
So I was very interested coming into my psych degree on clinical psychology. I wanted to be a therapist more than anything. And then in third year, I took the psychology and law course, and that was kind of the defining moment where I switched gears, and I started to get interested in the legal field. I was very focused before on psychopathology and like individual human behavior, and I think that course kind of just broadened my horizons and I started to understand it more from the institutional perspective and like how our lives are basically governed by law. Um, I also went to an event, I'm not sure if they host it anymore. It's called Expressions Against Oppression. And they brought in somebody who had been exonerated, and we got to ask him questions. We got to speak with him directly. Um, if they still offer it, I highly recommend that you attend it. It's very different when you actually get that face-to-face connection with people who have been incarcerated, as opposed to just reading about it in your journal articles. So yeah, that's kind of what shifted my focus.
Okay, that sounds like a great. Okay, and how did your honors psychology background at York shape the way you think about justice, ethics, and policy? And were there any particular experiences, for example, your research project with Innocence Canada, work with children, youth, or volunteering that helped you realize law was the right path for you?
Yeah, so I think like obviously that course was like the starting point of when I started to become interested in law. But after going to that event on exonerations, I ended up taking Psych 4180 with Dr. Zanella. I absolutely love her. I highly recommend anybody who's interested to take her class. Um, so we got to do these community projects. We did literature reviews for organizations. We did it for Innocence Canada, which is a legal organization. And we researched how, after people get exonerated, the way they're reported on in the news, how that influences their reintegration. We built, I built amazing connections. I was able to use it as a reference for law school. Um, and just psychology in general, when you work in the legal field, you are working with people who are at their lowest. So I think having that knowledge and background in psychology, and I was a crisis responder for Kids Help Phone. I've worked in psychiatric institutions. I've done a little bit of therapy to some extent. So just when I'm interacting, even with people in the law school, I feel like there's so much overlap between the two fields.
Thank you for that. So the next question we kind of have is like what academic and application steps are required to get into law school in Canada, like GPA, LSAT experiences, and like what do you wish you had known about the process before applying?
So I think like the major thing the schools do look at is your GPA and LSAT score. That being said, Canadian law schools are taking more of a holistic approach now. So they're not just focused on like the typical pre-law candidates or who has the highest LSAT score, who has the highest GPA. They look at your personal statement, your volunteer experiences, your references, your work experience. Like for me personally, I didn't have the best LSAT score. I kind of wrote it last minute and I still got multiple offers across Canada. You also don't need any legal experience specifically. The vast majority of people in my program have never worked in a law firm, myself included. Um, but I think really just your personal statement has to stand out. So do spend a lot of time on your personal statement. Also, there can be a lot of fear mongering around law school admissions. So if you can, try and stay off those online forums where people, I'm sure we've heard of them, they exist for most graduate programs. Um, you really don't have to have the highest GPA. You don't have to have the best LSAT score. If you can show the admissions team exactly why you want to pursue law and then have your past experiences in whatever field connect to that, I think that's where the admissions is starting to head.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. So our next question is if there are any specific organizations, internships, or opportunities you'd recommend for students who want to explore the intersection of psychology, law, and ethics.
So again, I'd highly recommend anybody take the psychology and law course if you can. You don't have to go work in a law firm, but even just reaching out to lawyers on LinkedIn, lawyers love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their jobs. So that's how I've connected with a lot of people. Also, the courthouse downtown, any public proceeding that happens in the court, you can literally just go in and sit down and you can actually watch how the judges reason, how the lawyers argue, just how litigation happens, if that's what you're interested in. I remember I went to one last year and I went to go talk to the crown or the prosecutor after, and she was very happy to talk to me after the trial. The legal field is largely about networking. So just reach out to lawyers, talk to them. If you have time, go to the courthouse or really just get involved in anything where it means something to you. For me, I'm very passionate about like animal welfare and working with like survivors of abuse. So I've done crisis work. I was an end-of-life pet photographer. So I think again, the admissions just wants to see that like you have interests and you stuck to them. But yeah, I highly recommend going to the courthouse.
That sounds good. Next question is like, what would you say has been the most rewarding or challenging aspect of studying law so far?
So the most rewarding is definitely the people. Like when I came into undergrad, excuse me, the first 2.5 years were online for me. It was very isolating. So it's kind of nice to like start law school in person and like learn from each other. The people, I'm in Fredericton and everybody is just so friendly here. The hardest part has definitely been adjusting to the workload and the curve. Um, it's about it's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be, but it's not impossible. And we also, like, our exams are just one exam and they're worth 100% of your grade. So there's a lot of pressure in that aspect and just dealing with some imposter syndrome. But overall, it does get, like, each week it gets a little bit easier.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. We have one more question for you, and then we can open it up to the chat. But what advice would you give psychology students who are passionate about social justice but unsure whether law is the right path versus other routes?
So I think if you're interested in the legal field generally, again, there's a lot of professors that work in psychology and law. I think you can just Google them or their labs. Just reach out to them and talk to them. That's what I used to do. I just used to go to office hours or email professors that I was interested in their work. Also, again, you can go to the courthouse, you can just reach out to lawyers on LinkedIn. Most of them tend to respond. But also just try different things. When I was a crisis responder for Kids Help Phone, like I didn't think that would translate into finding an area of law I would like, but it kind of made me interested in family law and abuse litigation. So I say whatever your interests are, just find an organization that deals with that. See if they're looking for volunteers and just stick with it for a while.
Thank you, Bianca. So does anyone have any questions for? Okay, so the first question we have is where do we get information on public court stuff?
I believe you can Google it if you just type in like public proceedings courthouse Toronto. There should something should pop up of when they're doing it. Like you don't want to just show up to the courthouse and then it's not a public um litigation. But if you just Google it, like it should pop up on their website. So the psychology and law course, I think it is separate from forensic psychology. There's overlap. I don't know if they renamed the course since I've been at York. But no, I'm not interested in forensic psychology specifically, but I think you would be fine taking either course.
Okay, so we have another question. How's studying outside of Ontario?
I really like it. Honestly, I chose to leave Ontario just because I plan on working in Atlantic Canada. It's a little bit easier to network where you go to school. My partner's here. But I really like it. I'm glad I chose to leave the province and just try something different. But yeah, I highly recommend UNB. It's awesome. It's one of the smallest law schools in Canada, I think. We're a very small group. Like if you want office hours 3 times a week, like you can have them. There's always like events going on. I just came back from a networking event before hopping on this call. But yeah, if you are looking to apply to law school, I would recommend applying to UNB. No problem.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions for Bianca, we're gonna move on to the next panelist. Thank you so much, Bianca. Um, so next up, our final panelist is Kaye, who studies psychology and linguistics and is now completing her Bachelor of Education with a focus on inclusive teaching. So, Kaye, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Simran. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kay. My pronouns are she and her. Just like as you mentioned, my undergrad was in psychology and linguistics. So I did psychology first, and then later on, I think around my third year, that was pre-COVID, I realized like, oh, I like linguistics too, because I took a language class, and I was like, maybe I can do something with that. And then they told me, like the department told me that I can do a double major. So I did that and I fell in love with it, and I realized, okay, maybe I want to go into speech language pathology. And because that's like one of the popular routes for psychology. And then, so I did a 5 year undergrad. And then while I was doing linguistics, I found out I can also take like an ESL certification, so teaching ESL. So that's why I also took the TESOL certification program. And I graduated in June 2023. And then I took a gap year. And during that time, I worked at Calumet Colleges as a student success program support coordinator. And there I help with communications and marketing. So just like what Simi said, like I didn't study any marketing courses. I got a communications job. And then after that, I applied for the Bachelor of Education program just out of randomness. And then I got in, and then now I'm here. I'm teaching, and everyone calls me Miss Canoy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction to get to hear a bit about your background. Um, this You covered this slightly, but we just want to ask to hear more about it. If you could share what inspired you to pursue a career in education and about your journey as a teacher candidate.
hmm So I took the TESOL program, and that is if you take it with linguistics or psychology, you will only need around a year to complete the whole certification. And then once you're done, then you get to teach basically ESL. And with that, it comes with different placements too. So you do an observation, you go into the different community partners that York has. So I did a placement at the ESL department at York, the continuing studies, and then a link program that's somewhere in Eglinton. So with that, I was able to do lesson planning. I was basically teaching whatever the teacher gives me. And then I realized like, oh, it's a fun job. And I'm like, I don't mind doing this throughout until I retire. And then when I heard that, teachers also get a good pension, I was like, you know what? Let's figure this out. And then here I am. But I didn't really think of that seriously at that point, because then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do speech language pathology because I'm passionate about it in terms of language and how the brain works and all of that. But when I took a gap year, I my job at Calumet and Sloan Colleges, it made me realize like, okay, I like how education affects the lives of students. So why like and then university students are, they're a different level, and why not go into the younger ones? So I applied and I enjoyed education so far. Um, yeah, and then that's where I am, and I think that's where I'm gonna be in for the next 10 years or until I retire.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear your journey. Um, how would you say like your background in psychology and linguistics influence your approach to teaching, learning, and classroom engagement?
hmm So I took a lot of courses in both programs that helped me in that. So number one is childhood and development. because I'm in the primary junior cohort, so that includes kindergarten all the way to grade 6. So for that one, it's really helpful because then I get to understand where they're at. It's like a kindergarten is different than a grade 2. Like you will see a difference. Like some of them don't even know how to write, and maybe you see a grade 1 that doesn't even know how to read, like even write their own names. Which is for me, it's like it depends on what kind of school you're in and what kind of classroom you're in, and it's very interesting to see that kind of development. I also took atypical development. I don't know if that's still offered, but during that time we had a virtual baby. So you get to take care of the virtual baby from newborn all the way to 18 years old. And there I also learned about the development and the other one from linguistics that I took is second language acquisition. So this one helped me in understanding multilingual language learners in the classroom. So with that, you get to understand what level they're in and how to help them perform in the classroom with the rest of the students. So for me, I find it very interesting because then, yeah, English is our language, but then what about those that probably came from a different country and only speak Spanish? So how would they join a circle time? So that like, like do you sing to in English for them or do you include Spanish songs too? So it's it's kind of like a research that you're doing in person on the spot because then you're trying things out. And then for other stuff like syntax and morphology courses too, like I like that and I took it and it really helped me in literacy. And even in grade 6, like some students don't even know how to spell properly. And why is that? Maybe they read different letters differently, or maybe they have a different language at home. So, yeah, those classroom, no, sorry, those courses help me in whatever I'm doing right now.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Those are definitely amazing things to keep in mind, especially in the position. So thank you so much for bringing your personal experience into this as well. Um, and yeah, you covered this question a bit, but we're wondering about any like more specific experiences that helped you realize that teaching was the right fit for you, if there's anything else in particular.
Yeah, so I think like V said earlier, I'm a little bit more biased on saying that UPSA helped me a lot. UPSA, I started as a marketing ambassador. That was in 2018. And I liked it. And that was pre-COVID. So we did a lot of things. And I think you're still doing it now, like the postering and stuff. So that helped me work in the team or as a team. And then I got my marketing and design experiences from there too. That is currently helping me right now in creating my own lesson plans, my own slides. And I didn't know at that time that, oh, this is part of teaching as well. And then when I took on a bigger role, like vice president and president, it helped me with the organization and team management. So that is also part of teaching itself, like being able to handle a group of, I don't know how many exec members there are right now, or maybe like the whole UPSA team, like 100 people in it. Like your co-presidents are probably having headaches after headaches every day. And that's how you feel after every classroom day. Like I was in the classroom today and I'm trying so hard not to have a migraine. But yeah, and then uh teaching was the right fit for me when I think it's all like the whole combination of things. And um yeah, and then I also took a work study position. So does anyone know what work study student means? Or so basically you're working at York as well while you're studying. So that is a good opportunity, not just at the Faculty of Health, that can also be in different areas at York. So there you get to learn about different like or how the department works, or you're doing admin stuff, or even as a research assistant, you can even do that too. And yeah, that's mostly it.
Thank you for that, Kay. It was nice to hear how UPSA played a role in your journey. So next question is kind of like what like academic and professional steps are required to enter the Bachelor of Education program at York University?
Yeah, so when I was applying for the program, it's very you'll find the application very onerous in that sense. Like there's a lot of things that they ask. So they ask a lot about your extracurricular experiences and how many hours you actually put in those. So they will ask you experiences that is about your cohort. So cohort is what you're planning on teaching. So if you're planning on teaching PJ, so do you have any experiences about like within that group of people, within that age range? And what I notice, it's very important to diversify your experiences. So just because you know you're going to be teaching in high school, it doesn't mean that you can't tutor your neighbor, because you can also write that down so that it shows that, okay, maybe because they want to create a teacher that is all like a wholesome teacher at the end of the day, because then you're going to be supplying too, right? And yeah, teaching experiences like what you can currently have too, it can either be volunteer or paid. So for example, being a peer tutor at UPSA, that is a really, really great experience, or being a past leader. Because being a past leader, especially, you're learning how to manage your own classroom in that sense, and how you can accommodate for someone that doesn't really get what you're trying to say. And yeah, or like being able to work with the content. Like sometimes they just give you a slide deck and like, okay, Miss Canoy, you teach that to the grade fours and I take care of the grade fives. And then, okay, what are you gonna do? It's about habitats. And then you go through what you learn about habitats first, and then you teach right away. So sometimes they might just put you in that on the spot situation. And you will need really good references too. So, for if you are like Janine, if you work with Janine really closely, like she could be a really good reference. So I had her as my reference too, and we worked a lot, not just in one position, but throughout my whole undergrad. Like having a professor as your reference is also helpful. And yeah, and I think it depends on where you are applying as well, because York is one. And then I think we also have like students from Niagara College where they do their placement first and then they attend courses. So I think it all depends on what kind of program or routine that you're into.
Okay, that is a lot of great advice for getting into or sorry, for the education program. So our next question is what kinds of undergraduate experience, for example, volunteering, tutoring, student leadership, or community outreach best helped you prepare for a teaching career? Perhaps an UPSA or something like that.
Yeah, so yeah, like I mentioned earlier, UPSA was a good one. So even if you're in your first year, second year, just try out to be a volunteer, right? Just to see if that's even the right group for you, or you might even choose a different club. And work study student is also a good thing. And if you are if you're minoring or double majoring in LAPS, they have this opportunity where you can do a research with a professor and a grad student. It's called DARE. It's what's the there's a meaning for it, but it's like a research excellence award that you can do, and that's what you can do throughout the whole summer, and they pay you too. So that's a good experience, and I think it's around $5,000 for the whole summer, and it's not bad. And I suggest that you take a look at that. And one thing that also helped me was orientation week. As like, as messy it sounds, like orientation week is like, as an chair, I was able to create everything from scratch, and that helped me like create that vision and being able to apply it to what is happening. So as a teacher, or in preparation for my teaching career, it helped me create a vision And okay, now I have these people. How will I make sure that they all have what I know? So it's through training and making sure that they understand what they're doing and having the resources that they need to do what they need to do. So it's that kind of planning or experiences that comes with that has that kind of that skill set. And yeah, join committees as well. There's a lot of like committees that you can join at York, especially with the teaching commons. You get to learn how they do the courses or the syllabus and even assessments and or even smaller projects like joining an Agents of Change program. And I think I worked with Simi before in a financial, oh my God, I forgot. What was that again?
Wellness.
Yeah, financial wellness project. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we basically created videos about what you can do with your finances, like creating TFSA and stuff. And now I'm teaching it to my own grade fours and fives. So it's like a again, like whatever you know, and if you are a teacher, it makes you the teacher that you are in the classroom. So it's all about your experiences.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. We are um done with our questions. We can take one more question, I believe. Is that correct, Simran, from the chat?
Yeah, we could take maybe like one more or two.
And thank you so much, Kay, for sharing
Yeah.
all of your responses. That's definitely very helpful for everyone in this Zoom call to just understand their other options in the pathway.
Yeah, and I can also answer the questions in the chat if you're short on time. And that's okay.
That'd be great. Thank you. We could maybe just touch on one question before, and then Kate, feel free to answer any questions in the chat. How can students make the most of small opportunities like clubs, part-time jobs, short volunteer roles to build relevant experience?
So how can students make the most? Um, I think one of the things, like sometimes you can get overwhelmed with all the stuff that you need to do too, right? Like, oh, I have to be this, I have to be that, just so I can do this in the future. But at the same time, like, know your boundaries and focus on what is important for you so that it helps you later on. So, making the most out of the small opportunities is like network a lot with the people. Don't just apply for the sake of applying and having it on your LinkedIn or your resume. Like go to that meeting and like participate, just like how you're participating in your courses. And maybe even if you don't have anything to provide for that day, maybe just offer your presence there. Maybe they just need someone to do some sort of postering or just tabling or something. And then maybe because it's I think someone said it earlier. I think it was V that's like things happen for a reason and then you just get to you meet someone and then you meet another person and so on and so forth. And yeah, because then the people I got to meet right now is because of those little small opportunities that I did along the way. And uh and yeah, I think it's just do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kay. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I just want to start off by saying thank you to our amazing panelists. That was honestly so amazing and inspirational to hear. And it's so cool how it's so interconnected in a way. Like, I loved how you all kind of shared opportunities with each other and experiences with each other, which is really nice to hear. So, part two, we're going to be going into pathway exploration. So, this section is really just going to take everything we kind of learned in the panel and put it all together and show you like the concrete pathways, programs, and opportunities available to psychology students. And I just want to give like a kind reminder that like this just like like the few that we have covered, but again, your psychology degree opens many like meaningful pathways and doors to like careers that may not even be mentioned here, and like your skills like transfer into various paths like health, business, research, law, and education, and even like fields again like you may not even expect. And the main message is kind of like just to keep in mind that like you don't need to have everything figured out right now. Like you can start somewhere, get experience, and like figure out if you like it or not, and shift your path. And then every like experiences kind of just teaches you something useful. And like the purpose of the next few slides is to kind of just equip you all with the careers that you may not have been aware of and opportunities to get involved in.
Okay, to start with some career possibilities, after psychology for a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts, this slide is just going to be your big picture reminder that a degree in psychology can lead to various careers in various different fields. The first one we have listed is health and rehabilitation. So in this field, you could go into some careers including occupational therapy, speech language pathology, psychotherapy, case management, and ABA therapy, or an ABA therapist. And you would need more schooling afterwards, after the undergrad, and we will touch on the prerequisites briefly in the next slides. In education, you could be a BED teaching, go into BED teaching, early childhood education, academic support, or even literacy programs. For healthcare support, you could go into PT assistance, you could be a rehab assistant or a mental health support worker. For research and data, there's clinical research assistants, lab coordinators, data collection, and user research. And for business and behavior, there's HR, marketing, UX research, communications, and program coordination. For law and policy, you could be a paralegal, a legal assistant, go into policy research, or also public service roles. And lastly, there's also social services, which include crisis lines, community outreach, youth workers, and newcomer support. So these are just a few pathway options after a psychology undergrad degree. And if you're stuck between deciding on a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, it may be helpful to know that in a BA, or these programs are great for counseling, social work, education, law, business, and health non-clinicals, while the BSc is helpful for OT, SLP, PT, neuroscience, MPH, and research-heavy roles. But again, both lead to meaningful careers. And I'll pass it on to June for the next slide.
Okay, so as Ava mentioned before we move on, we just wanted to include a quick slide to mention the most common health-related pathways students asked about in the registration form. So this is just a high-level overview, and not every school is the same, and prerequisites vary, but here's just the general idea. So for occupational therapy, prerequisites may include bio, stats, and social sciences. Strong experiences include volunteering in a hospital, a rehab setting, or shadowing occupational therapists. For speech language pathology, prerequisites typically include linguistics, phonetics, child language courses, and sometimes stats. Good experiences include being a part of literacy programs, working with children, or tutoring. For physiotherapy, most schools look for anatomy, physiology, and first year of bio or chem. Experiences can come from working or volunteering at a physiotherapy clinic, assisting in rehab, or athletic therapy settings. For epidemiology, these programs often need stats and research methods. Great experiences include being a part of research labs, public health organizations, or being a part of community health work. For social work, most programs don't have specific prerequisites, but strong experiences include crisis lines, community outreach, or residential support positions. For counseling or psychotherapy programs, most of these also don't have very specific prerequisites, but you would want experience in mental health support, peer programs, or frontline work. And a very common question that students ask is, do I need an honors degree? So typically you only need an honors degree for research-based programs like MA or MSc. For counseling, social work, occupational therapy, or speech and language pathology, it's typically not required. Finally, for programs that require the Casper, like occupational therapy, and speech and language pathology, make sure that you practice ethical scenarios and focus on communication, empathy, and reasoning. And I will pass it on to Simran for the next section.
Okay, thank you for that, June. So now we're going to touch base on what to do if you don't know your path yet. So this was a pretty common question in the form, and some things that you could do if you're unsure is firstly explore broadly. So like try different labs, volunteer roles, clubs, shadowing, even things that you think that you might not like, because you might actually end up enjoying it and you won't find out unless you're actually have experienced it. So really just try to like broaden like your like volunteer approach and try different things. Secondly, would be like just follow what feels interesting enough. Like whatever you find interesting, just try to like try those experiences. Like join a club maybe, or try research in that area, or try a volunteer role in that area. Just really just try to like put yourself out there more, just so you can figure out what you like and what you think is for you. And then also like through these like experiences that you could put yourself out there for, you could also build a lot of transferable skills like communication, leadership, basic data sales skills. And then you would also just meet a lot of people that might have great insights to share with you and how they navigated like the same thing that you might have gone through, like not knowing what to do with your psychology degree. And again, like networking is really important. Just try to really just network with anyone that you might find and ask them for any opportunities or experiences. And then again, just try something new, like reflect if you liked it, and like kind of just repeat until you find something that you feel is for you and is your calling. And most importantly, like don't compare your timeline to anyone else's. Again, everyone is just figuring out as they go. It's all kind of just a learning curve. And like this slide just kind of meant to remind you that it's okay to not have everything figured out. Not knowing what to do is completely normal, and like I feel like your path just becomes more clearer the more and more you explore. And we're going to be sharing a resource that could kind of help you navigate what path to that might be for you.
Yeah, so York recently launched the Psychology Major Maps website, and this is honestly one of the best resources available for planning your degree and career. The websites outline courses that you can take at York, skills you gain from these, different career options that can lead on from your psychology degree, what to do in each year from first year to fourth year, and a list of jobs you can apply to after your degree. Also, the website has PDFs on transferable skills and career options specifically for psych students, and we've just included some screenshots here to show you what the website looks like.
Okay, moving on to some opportunities we have here at York. So there are many ways here at York to gain experience while you're still in your undergraduate degree. And here are just a list of some to look into. So we have a bunch of research labs in areas such as cognitive psychology, neuropsychology, health psychology, perception, and more. There's also research at York positions, which are paid, and there are peer mentoring and pass sessions, UPSA leadership, such as the positions that we are currently in, including myself. Um, there's TA-ships for upper year undergraduate students, and York's research volunteer pool. And course-based practicums in fourth year, depending on your stream. And every one of these can make a big difference in your applications. So it's cool to look into them.
Now, moving on to kind of more external opportunities like internships and summer research programs for those who kind of just want to get more exposure in different fields of research. To start off, we have the Sick Kids Sure program. So, this is a highly competitive program. It is really nice. There's like it's probably like one of the best, like, it's a leading hospital in Canada, and I think the PIs there are just absolutely amazing, and their research is very broad. They're kind of have something for everyone and their interest in like research. So I would highly recommend applying to this program. And it is also very structured, I would say as well. So if you're looking for something that's kind of a bit more structured, um, it runs from May to August. I would highly recommend checking out the SURE program. And then we have the Amgen Scholars Program, which is more of an international program. And then we have the Sunnybrook Summer Student Research Program. And then we have the Hurwitz Brain Science Summer Student Program. So that's still the Sunnybrook, but just kind of more so focus on like biological sciences or validated clinical sciences and physical sciences, while like the main ones kind of more, again, more broad. Then UHN also has a summer student program, and they again have it at their various institutions. And the Princess Margaret program, they actually have an imaging focused one. So for those who are trying to figure out if imaging, like a MRI, like they want to be an MRI technician or any sort of like imaging focused career, they could definitely check that out. And then CAMH also has a summer program. We have Baycrest Surf. U of T also have a summer program. Mount Sinai, St. Michael's Hospital, William SSRP, and then NSERC, which would be just through your honors and like a supervisor. And I think just like a few tips for like when you are applying, just really just try to broaden like the approach, apply to many programs as you can. Again, like these are very highly competitive. And don't lose hope. You are gonna get ghosted by PIs again. Like, I think from my experience, I like emailed around like 200 people, like 200 PIs in general, like across all different hospitals, and I ended up just carrying a position at Sick Kids. So again, like, don't lose hope. It's gonna happen, but again, you kind of just keep going. And then I would suggest that even though the deadline is in like March or February, I would encourage everyone to start applying in December. Honestly, because again, they scientists are accepting students on a rolling basis. So I would say to start cold emailing in December, and then just make sure to send in your resume. And again, like, it's okay if you don't have research experience beforehand. Don't feel like like you won't get it. Again, like, you won't know unless you put yourself out there. And that is pretty much it. And we will answer any questions regarding this. Okay. I'll
Okay,
pass it on to June.
yes. So now to go into some strong experiences that make you stand out. So when applying to research positions, jobs, or grad programs, these experiences really stand out in your application. So experience at a crisis line, a hospital, research labs, in an ABA therapy position, in community mental health, youth programs, program coordination roles, student leadership, or administrative roles in clinics or labs. These all can really help you stand out in your application. We also want to remind you that matters isn't really the title, it's the skills that you gain from the position, such as communication, empathy, teamwork, initiative, handling data, and professionalism. Also, you can check out your local hospitals. Almost all of them have volunteer programs in areas like diagnostic imaging, physio, rehab, surgery, and more. There's not really one best experience. Just try to tailor it and cater it to you as a person. Experiences that align with the path for you are best.
Okay, awesome. So now we're just going to move to the next slide. Great. So here we're going to be discussing how to reach out. So one of the most important career skills is learning how to reach out professionally. So we've included a message structure here. So you always want to start with who you are and right away why you're reaching out. Then it's important to explain what you're actually asking for of the person you're contacting, and then to always end it with thanking them and especially thanking them for their time and consideration, for example. We have a sample message here, But another one could go, hi, and then insert the name of the person you're contacting. My name is blank, and I'm a psychology student at York University. I came across your work in blank, insert where you came across their work, and then go on to say, I'd love to learn more about your research or ask if there are any opportunities to get involved, and then ending it with just thanking them for their time and consideration, for example. Some important tips to keep in mind when you're writing messages and reaching out professionally is to always keep it short. You don't want to go past a few paragraphs, although it depends on what position or what you're contacting them for. But you don't want to keep, you just want to include like what is most relevant to be answering the questions at the top there. It's also important to always attach your resume or CV depending on what you are applying for, reaching out about, and then also including an unofficial grade transcript if it's relevant. Another tip is to follow up after 5 or 7 days if they haven't gotten back to you. But the most important thing is to not give up because it is very common to not hear back, especially for many emails. But the most students get opportunities because they emailed early and because they kept emailing. A lot of the times it is not personal. The person just on the other end just doesn't have time or didn't see it in their inbox, any of those examples that are more situational than anything else. So you just want to keep messaging and don't take it personally. That is the biggest advice you could definitely take with you while you're reaching out. Um, and then we, I can double check with Sim, but I believe we're going to be opening the floor for some questions now about these slides.
Yes, so we are running ahead of time, so we'll open the floor for any questions. So again, like if anyone has any questions for us or like what we just shared or any of the panelists, feel free to like either turn on your mic or drop it in the chat and we will get to you. So one question we have is what advice would you give on balancing curiosity with practicality when choosing opportunities? Would any of the panelists like to answer this question?
I guess I could do this one. Um, because this is the story of my life, I guess. Um, in the end, okay, to be practical means you do have to make money. Unfortunately, you got to live. Um, so I guess give yourself some time. This is what I did. I don't know. When it comes to this kind of question, what I did was I gave myself a couple months to just figure it out. You can even give it a year. Depends on your situation, I guess. How much time you have to figure it out. Because everyone's financial situation is different. But as long as you give yourself a little bit of time, or even if you, let's say after university, you decide, let me just get a job just for stability, but then at the side, you just keep pursuing something, just be curious about something, and then just keep trying. And you have to understand too what people actually want, know what if there's a need out there, if there's a desire out there, if people will actually buy what you're selling, instead of being a little bit delusional. Uh, that's my perspective just from the business world. But I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say about that.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
oh, oh, sorry.
Well, you
Uh,
can go.
so yeah, so I agree with Simi. For me, it's mostly about like for me, I plan ahead of time, so that means like I look at what this opportunity is going to be like for me in the next few years. Because sometimes like, oh, maybe it's a good thing, but maybe what about something else that you can do with your time, right? And like right now I'm in education, but I actually started in architecture like before all of that. So I was in architecture for 2 years, and then I started psychology, and then I'm in linguistics, and I'm in education. So I'm like, I could have right now, I just thought to myself, like, okay, maybe I should have just like went to education right away. But then at the same time, like whatever I learned from all of those experiences is currently helping me now. So, but for you to ground yourself, like plan a timeline just so you can see yourself in the future and what kind of experiences that you can get out of that. Yeah.
Thank you both for that. The next question we have here is, what's the main difference between doing an honors degree and a specialized honors? I heard you have to do a thesis, but for honors, you just have to do an independent research paper. Would anyone like to touch base on that?
I can take on that just because I did my specialized honor. So basically the difference is technically you need to do a thesis for specialized honor program, but you also need to take a few courses like intermediate research method and intermediate stat, I think. So beside those required courses, you obviously need to do a thesis, which is in a way more formal than an independent research paper. I'm not sure if they change it, but I remember if you're doing an independent research paper, technically you do write a paper, but instead of enrolling in the thesis course, you enrolled in the like the independent course, right? It kind of differ where you do when you enroll in the thesis one. There's more step you need to take for your research paper, if that makes sense. But if you're doing an actual research in your independent research course, then it's not much different. I'm sorry, if you in it, you know what I mean. I don't know how to say it. Basically, those two are the same thing, but it's different font. But also, it depends on how you approach your independent research paper. But anyway, as long as if you're applying to a grad program, especially like a research-based program, have either one is fine. Like you just need to make them like realize that this is actually like you wrote a research paper in your independent research course. That makes sense. Okay, let me know if I'm making no sense. Sorry, guys. I just have three class back to back, so my mind is scrambled.
No, that
Yeah,
was
no problem.
perfect.
Oh, sorry, Sim. Yeah, that was very clear. And if anybody had questions about that, they can definitely drop them in the chat. Our next question is, how do you balance studying, volunteering, working, dealing with family as well? Thinking about it stresses me out. Even if I'm just studying and trying to manage my time, I find it difficult to balance it. Does anyone have any response to that of how to balance the work life?
I can answer this one, I guess, 'cause I'm like dealing with it now too. I think like for me personally, I just make a priority list. It's like the things that have to get done first or that are the most important. I'll just put like I'm not really somebody who plans my day down to a T, but I think just being able to see it visually and then being able to check it off. Um, it helps get stuff done. Unfortunately, like there have been times just myself and I'm sure everybody else, like you're gonna have to say no to some social events to get your work done. Um, s- you don't have to strive for perfection. If you're trying to strive for perfection on every assignment, chances like you're not gonna get much done. So I think you need to strike a balance between something being good enough, so you can still see your friends, still see your family, but that's the advice that I received, and it works out pretty well for me.
Thank you. Yeah, that honestly is definitely some great insight into a way to not really like fixate on things and to have time for other areas of your life. The next question we have is saying, I'm in my final year of undergrad in psychology and haven't had much experience with research or volunteering, yet I'm wondering, is it, or yet, I'm wondering, is it still possible to pursue graduate studies or find meaningful job opportunities in the field without those experiences? I'd consider doing a co-op, but it would mean extending my degree by a year, which I'm open to. Are research, volunteering, or co-op placement essential at this stage, or are there other ways to build a competitive profile? Does anyone feel comfortable taking that question on?
Um, I guess I'll add and to answer this question, and anybody can add to it because I think everybody have a different experience regarding this. But I would say that with with no experience, you will be at disadvantage just because with the current state regardless of any program, any grad program that you're applying to, I think that with the current economic state, a lot of people can pursue a graduate program. It's just how it is right now. So with no experience, it can really put you at a disadvantage. And I would say that a lot of people do take, even though they need like two 1 or 2 extra years to gain more experience before applying, but eventually the advantage outweigh the time cost, if that makes sense. I know a lot of people really want to get into clinical site programs, so they did 1 or 2 year of like only research lab coordinator, even at like York or anywhere else to like boost up their CV, boost up their profile before applying again. But Kate, I'll let you add to it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with V as well. I think it all depends on where you're gonna apply or what program you want to apply, because then it depends on how competitive that is. So, for example, if you're going into, let's say, clinical psychology and you don't have experiences that is about that, so think about the people that are also applying for that grad school program, because then you all have the same undergrad, but then they all have experiences in a helpline and they all have lab experiences, and that's already a default then, like a default for all of those applications. And if you don't have those, then you're at a disadvantage. And extending, like I extended my undergrad for another year, and that's for me to gain my experiences, not only an experience but also a certificate in ESL teaching. And that was my safety net. Like in the case that, like, oh my God, I don't want to go to school anymore, then I can just go and teach in a private institute and do whatever. Right. And yeah, and at the same time, like what you're learning in that extended education is what you can say when you're going to be interviewed by your future employer. And then you have more experiences that you can talk about, more pros and cons in terms of a certain thing. And yeah, like you just have a lot of things to say in that. And sometimes it's all just about that one interview. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for also taking on that question and just providing some more insight from a different perspective as well. Just seeing, I believe the next question will be for clinical psychology, is research or volunteer experience more important? Anyone?
I can add to it just because I do have experience applying to both clinical counseling and epi. I was all over the place, but okay. But to be fair, I was trying to spread my net around. Anyways, so I would say that they really, really, really emphasize research experience compared to any other volunteer experience just because it's so competitive. It's too competitive to a point where now they just value research more because that means that you can do the work and they can rely on you to write like grant application to do your thesis without their help because they're very busy. Um, with the current state, I would say that yeah, they really go for research one, and for counseling is the opposite, I guess. Like they emphasis on other experience beside research, but they do emphasize on real life experience. They're looking for somebody who's more seasoned. I don't know if that makes sense. Because it's the when I was interviewing for counseling program, I think that's what they're looking for. Like people with like not like fresh out of undergrad. But that's my take. But that's my take on like currently what's happening. But anybody have other experience can chime in.
If no other panelists would like to answer that question, we can move on. Um, I believe this question already got answered, but someone had previously asked Simi a question about when businesses or clients usually work with you, what do they usually look for?
Yeah, I was just typing that out.
Okay.
Basically though, like I can just say it's always what you can do for them. In the end, that's what everybody's like. Everyone's kind of selfish in a way. Not to be so cynical, but it is how can you make me money? How can you increase my engagement? And how can you make me look better? But in the end, like what I was saying, you guys all have psychology backgrounds, right? Whatever courses that you took, whatever interests that you have, even just the research background, right? Learning from research studies and even being hands-on. Let's say you're going to do your thesis or independent research study, you're going to have that experience, right? So your mind is already different compared to the rest of the people in marketing that probably are self-taught or just have marketing background. So you have that, that's your specialty, and then that's what you can say when you're trying to make your offer to them. But in the end, they're always looking at how are you going to make me money? But in the end, you can specialize your offer with this. Hopefully, I answered that question right.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty um, clear and also just kind of covered what I'm sure they were asking about. Um, I'm just looking if we have any more questions. If anyone wants to drop their question again, if we didn't get to it yet, that would be very helpful. But it seems like we were getting a lot of responses. Um, So I suppose we could clarify because I see some people are still trying to understand the difference between an honors degree and a specialized honors degree. I know you did clarify this earlier, but if anyone has any other additional input about the difference in the degrees.
Um, so my experience with like just a regular honors degree. So for that one, I was able to have a double major because you can diversify what you need, and for specialized, it's like a set. Like it's it has that research component, and if that's what you want, that's like a good set for you. But if you are let's say you want to do law as well and then psychology, then an honors degree is better because then you can diversify it in terms of having a major and a minor or a double major in that sense. But if you want to do something else, again, that's about research. It doesn't have to be clinical. It could also be like within sociology, and then you have someone else to do it with, then a specialized honors I think would be good for you. And currently my friends that have graduated with specialized honors, they are in master's programs that are within clinical counseling or social work. Yeah, that's where I see that within my friends.
Okay, thank you so much for adding another perspective on that. Our last question will be what's a project, academic or personal, that taught you the most about yourself as a learner?
I guess I'll answer this one. Um, I think as a learner specifically, like the project I did in my fourth year, it was a group project. I think there was five of us. And I think that taught me that I work better in groups when we can kind of bounce ideas off each other. I just learn better collaboratively. I don't really learn that well by myself or asynchronously. So yeah, I think it's good to just get involved in these projects, even projects outside of the school, because a lot of the time you can translate what you learn there back in. But yeah, I think working in groups has taught me that like I work best with other people.
I would like to say this is what Kay and I actually did. Kay mentioned the Financial Wellness Project. So the Financial Wellness Project was an idea that I came across when I was working with Mazen and Janine. I was a leadership coach before, and then I didn't want to be a leadership coach anymore. And then they're like, "Okay, pick any topic that you want." So it was the first way where I was like, "Okay, there's so much with psychology that you can do, and you can be so creative with it." So what I did was I learned about psychology and finance because this was during COVID. So there was such a bad economic time, but then things are blooming and it was kind of all over the place, right? But then I got into that because I love psychology business. And I'm like, psychology finance, let's see what we can do with this. And then there was something called money attitudes. So that's a whole other subject on its own. So what we did, Kay and I, we created animated videos for high school students and York University students to help them with their finances and financial attitudes. And that's something that I guess as a learner, I realized I could do anything and I could be as creative as possible as I want with psychology. And that's what kind of kept the ball rolling from there. And you can learn on your own. And it was literally from a book, actually. It was by Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That book actually shaped my way of thinking. And then I got into financial psychology.
Thank you so much for your responses. And I think that is a great way to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you all so much for taking on all these great questions from our attendees. So just before we wrap up, we just want to share how you can stay connected with UPSA. So you can visit our social media accounts, our website, and you can also see our email and LinkedIn. Um, we also have more events coming up, including our Guide to Grad School event. Simran, if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so including our Guide to Grad School event, which is in collaboration with Pump, and this is coming up in 2 weeks. Um, so yeah, you can follow us on Instagram, join our mailing list, and check out our website for tutoring, mentoring, and future opportunities. And I will just pass it on to Simran for the closing.
Thank you, June. So this brings us to the end of the event. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and a huge thank you to the panelists for sharing your time and the amazing insights. I'm sure we all took away something valuable. We do have a QR code for the feedback form. We really would appreciate it if like all the attendees could fill it out just so that we can know your thoughts and so that we can improve for next year. And we're going to stay on the Zoom for a couple of minutes for anyone who has any quick questions. And again, feel free to email us with any questions you might have, or you could also reach out to the panelists as well. We have attached their emails on the slides and linked their LinkedIns as well. And then we will be sharing the slides after this event, and this recording will also be uploaded as well. And have a wonderful evening and good luck on whatever pathways you all choose. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for attending. And yeah, make sure you can scan the QR code.
Simran, I think people are asking in the chat where they can find the slides. Could you just confirm that quickly?
I believe we'll send out an email for them.
Perfect. Thank you.